Cool. So let's dive into it, shall we? A few weeks back, I stumbled upon a report called What Clients Want. And in this report, companies like Pepsi, LinkedIn, YouTube, General Mills, and more were asked the question, what are you asking for from your agencies today that you weren't asking for 5 years ago? And some responses that kind of caught my eye were they were wanting to be a part of the process, helping to craft and refine thinking. They no longer wanted to sit back and wait for the creative, but be in the process of creation. And they consistently found better results if we found ways to work earlier or more often with our agency partners in a project versus a big reveal at the end. So this got my head thinking and obviously pointing to the idea of collaboration and specifically wondering what that looks like at Red Pepper between us and clients. So I started asking around to see what collaboration with clients meant to people in accounts, to creative, and even our own clients. And my goal was just to learn more about how each viewed the idea, as well as implement changes in my own approach to improve how I collaborate with clients and other team members at RP. So I thought it'd be interesting to share that. So with that, I give you 3 ways to improve collaboration with clients. But first, a slide about trust. As I spoke with clients, one thing became clear. Trust doesn't just happen. For instance, one client stated that in a new relationship, it's not that comfortable for them to come and say, hey, here's our entire growth plan and strategy. This would normally come after 18, 24 months in a relationship. And at the beginning of relationships with us, they see their role as making us as familiar as possible with their brand and acting as a brand guardian, where there's all these no's up front before we get to that eventual yes. But once that trust is there, then we have the opportunity to be more transparent, where the more transparent you can be with any partner, the more you can help. So how can we start to trust? How can we start to establish trust so we can help more? And that's where these 3 ways come in. So way 1 is, of course, empathy. As with most things, when we come to a situation with the emphasis on trying to understand where others are coming from or what's most important to them, then we're already ahead of the game. I think the past few weeks, we've all started to see that with our inclusion series we've been doing. And it really sank in for me this last week. Daniel, Lauren, and Nani did a great job of showing us how understanding the values of others can help us align and work towards a common goal. If we ask questions like, what's important to so-and-so in this conversation? What are they hoping to accomplish with this project? What would success look and feel like to you? These questions allow us to see the full picture, understand each other's values, establish where we have common ground, and hopefully pave a way forward. Now, after we've begun to understand one another, the next step that starts to naturally appear is this idea of roles. In that What Clients Want report, one response pointed out that one of the biggest changes over the last 5 years was in the changing roles between the client and the agency. They said that there used to be a clear role for the agency and for the client. Agencies need to be the marketers, but we are asking them to involve client-side marketers in the creative process. This showcases this new reality of more brands bringing marketing in-house. How do we take this into account, make them feel included, so it's not just us telling them what to do, but rather working together to find the right solution for them? As I think about these defining roles, I recall a client's definition of collaboration. They define collaboration as taking everyone's talents to achieve the best outcome. So we know roles are changing, and we know we need to use everyone's talent in order to achieve our goals, but how do we define roles? Now, there's no blanket statement. There's no one-size-fits-all role for clients in collaboration. Every project's unique, every client's unique that comes with different skills. But in speaking with members with our creative team, one said, deciding the role is really figuring out the strengths of each team and leading into them, or strengths equals role. So how might we start understanding or discussing our client's strength? Naturally, this usually first comes in the form of questions. Questions like, what are the strengths of our key stakeholders? What are the strengths of their team? What expertise does their team currently have or lack? The hope is that these questions lead to interesting discussions, which lead to an eventual goal of outlining roles. Because with roles, we can define or point out everyone's talents that will help us achieve the best outcome. And defining roles can be the first step to ingraining ourselves with clients, which leads us to the 3rd way, immersion. Now, I see immersion really as diving into a client's world with 2 feet. So let's hone in on communication. I think communication is most often associated with immersion because there's so many layers to it. There's language, there's how you communicate, there's who you communicate with. So let's focus on language. Can we speak the language? What abbreviations do they use? What industry lingo or internal references should we become familiar with? What about how and where? Do they have a way to communicate internally we could be a part of? Is there an internal communication tool beyond email? How might we start connecting creatives with the right stakeholders to bounce ideas off of? Immersing ourselves with clients gives us the opportunity to show them how we're working to solve their problems, where they see us as partners and collaborators that solve problems together versus on our own. So let's wrap it up. Too long didn't read. Trust doesn't just happen. It takes many small moments to establish this deep, trusting relationship, where we use empathy to understand what's most important to clients. We understand one another's strengths to help us define roles, and we immerse ourselves into the client's world, so instead it becomes our world. Thank you.